Is it working? Okay, hi guys, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program. I have played this game before, and in this meanwhile, in which I had no idea for what games to play next, what series to start, as I'm trying to jumble around a few videos. I've come upon on some other YouTuber, some way more famous YouTuber than me. Well, famous, he has way more subscribers and attention than me. Who's been starting a YouTube series on this game, and that is Northernlion, and he has been so absolutely horrid and disastrous at this game, and I just couldn't help myself, and I just had to start a new series on my own. This series will occur on the newest version of the game, update. I think it's update 1.2. So there has been a few things added since the last time I played it. The last time I played it for a YouTube series, I think it was back in the 0.25 update, just when they introduced contracts, and I let it down back then because I couldn't figure out how to do the contracts. They were too difficult, and even now some of them are pretty difficult, and you do need a little bit of an experience to get them. I have played it again when the full version got released and put it down again. Pretty much, I stop at the somewhere at the point where you have to get to like other planets. That is like the limit of my intelligence at this game, with which is way higher than I don't know, the majority of people who play this game and maybe let it. I don't know. I have no idea how the most majority of people handle it. But if I go by the comment section, many people say that they can't even make an orbit or reach the moon. But I also see videos of people making like these gigantic rockets or SSTOs and launching them to like the most furthest planets in the Kerbal system and come getting them back, and they're just absolutely blowing your mind. So I'm not exactly sure where on the scale of like intelligence I am with in regards to the Kerbal Space Program, but after seeing Northernlion's videos, I am very certain that I am way above him. Let's just put it that way. Interestingly enough, he did choose the hexagon as well as a flag. That was the one that I would always choose for mine. I don't know, it seemed very simple and very nice in concept. So actually, Kerbal, this one seems pretty fine as well, and it also is hexagon in shape. So just for you guys to not cry out that I am like copying or anything like that, I'm gonna choose a slightly different flag, and of course I'm gonna name this new save file Kermit, and I'm thinking about the difficulty because I don't want to play like really on easy. He's currently playing it on normal, which is it's all right, technically speaking. It's doable. I'm thinking whether to go with like moderate or missing crew respawn, no entry purchase required on research. Oh, that's pretty rough actually. And I did try to play on the hard. I think the first time I tried on the career, and that really kicked me in the ass because let me tell you, it is hard, and you can add even more difficulty settings like on over here by like making them custom. Basically you can like add g-force limits to like parts and even to the Kerbals, so they can like black out from the sustaining too much g-force. There's also like uh, communication leaks weakening when going through atmospheric plasma. I actually did not know about this one. So you can make the game very realistic and substantially more difficult if you want to, but just because I want to have this series, I want it to have like some sort of like a tutorial feeling, I'm gonna go with normal. And I don't recommend you guys to go for the harder difficulties unless you are extremely experienced, not only in the art of like making spacecrafts and flying them, but also in how to like game the game like properly, basically in terms of like funds and contracts and all that there is required for the career mode, which is You know, way more complicated. I already have a save file in which I've got like way I'm very well advanced into it, but I'm not going to go into that. So this is where we start. Quite basic and quite obviously with the buildings not much upgraded, and you're gonna have a long way to go. Some basic starting funds, very like dirty runway, which can't really even be called runway. It's just absolutely terrible. The space plane hangar where you build like ships that are capable to take off from the runway and hopefully reaching space. Mission control, which we're going to enter to grab the first missions, gather scientific data from Kerbin, and launching our first vessels are two very easy missions to grab. Vehicle assembly building and launch pad, these will be the main buildings that you'll work with. We will build the buildings here and you launch them here. Tracking station is where you track all the ships that you have launched and also debris that remains, and you can also check details about other planets and moons from the Kerbal system. And unfortunately that's it. You can add a lot of mods to this game to make it more realistic, to make it look more appealing, and even to add more solar systems. That has been done, and it's very interesting to do that, to add like a black hole and multiple solar system. But the thing is that at that point it takes like so long to send ships in between like the different solar systems that you know you have to wait like minutes, even hours at like full time acceleration just to like send a spacecraft from one another. So you know, not very recommended. This is the research and development facility where you grab research using science. Quite basic. This was how the initial career mode was implemented. It only had science. Now it also has funds and reputation. The astronaut complex where you hire carbonauts, and the administration building where you can really figure out with like this is where you really need to know what you're doing in order to you can really push out the amount of money and experience and science you can get from it if you know how to work with it. All of these things do make sense, you know. There are the things that have positive effects and negative effects. For example, fundraising campaign, as you might deduce from its name, it takes reputation, but it brings more funds with each reputation. So for example, if you don't really care about your reputation and you desperately need money, then you start a fundraising campaign, and the amount of commitment you can get to it depends on how advanced the facility is and how much you have for the setup cost. Patents, licensing, you can it takes science, but it gives you more funds. Unpaid research program, it takes reputation and gives you science. These are like, all these ones are like things that take are over time, and there are those that are like have instant effect, that is research rights sellout, where you just basically give away all your science, which you have none of, and they give you funds. Bailout grant, where you give away your reputation and it gives you money. And there's also the leadership initiative, which is something that I was trying to figure around with, because this what makes it is that you're less reliant on contracts. So it reduces the amount of fun, science, and reputation you gain from contracts, and increases the amount you gain from like pushing for the milestones, so you can have a more independent space program. Now let us do some basic ships before we end this episode. Well, still at the beginning, but let's do something. So very basic, you know, for the first mission you don't even have to launch anything, and this is what I do whenever I try to introduce someone to the game. Like, I don't even put a parachute. I guess I put like a mystery goo container, and this is it. I just launch it just for the test site and just to get people accustomed to what this game is about. So obviously we're not gonna have any dangers or anything like that, because it's just a pod that has no rockets, no engines, nothing. And you can already gather science even from just this, you know. That is why you need to start small, because science can be gathered from everywhere. So we are observing the mystery goo, which gives us free science from the launch pad. Now what you need to know about the Kerbal Space Program is that all around Kerbin and all around the solar system, there are all sorts of different biomes, and each biome offers like science for like doing scientific operations on them differently than other biomes. Like if I'm doing observe mystery goo here on the launch pad, it gives me some science. If I do it again while I'm in air or in space or on the mountains or on the ice poles or in the grasslands or anything else, it's gonna give me some more science. So you'll have to explore all the biomes in order to like obtain all the science that you want to get. Another thing, easy to do, that Northernlion has been completely missing out. If you right click on your crew hatch, you have right over here crew report, and it's a very simple basic thing that can be done. It gives you some extra science. It's basically the crew assessment of the situation from inside the launch pod, basically. And unlike many other kinds of science, this one can be transmitted and it maintains its full scientific data. Usually it's recommended to keep your data because it gives you more science, as you can see over here. Plus transmitting data requires electric charge and a communication device, which we don't have, so that's something. And also another thing that he has completely missed out is the EVA, extravehicular activity, which you can send your Kerbonauts outside and do science over here. We can actually do two of them, I think. No, it's only one. EVA report from the launch pad. I don't think a spacesuit was entirely necessary to get here, was it? And we keep experiment and we go back in with B, and now we have another EVA report, but you can do one more. Basically all you have to do is to get him out and start walking him around. The controls are very similar to most of the games that you know there are out there, WSAD, shift to run, and you use the mouse to move around. There you go, that is the moon. We will get there one day, but here we go. If you go just a little bit further and do another EVA report here, no, this is still a launch pad. I need to go like further out. I think I might need to get away from like this grassy field in order to like get more to get into a different biome. And obviously you can speed up time, a very important feature of Kerbal Space Program, because space travel, let me tell you something, it takes a lot of fucking time, dude. So yeah, you're going to need to use that a lot while you're on while you're moving, or while you're while you're accelerating. That's the word I'm trying to say. The speed up time is limited to ×4 maximum, because there might be some weird stuff happening if you go for too much time acceleration. It's basically the physical time acceleration. If you are not under any acceleration, except for the planets one, I guess we can't really count that, then you can go for all the way to ×100 times time acceleration. So over here, there you go, EVA report from the Kerbal Space Center, which is different from the one from the launch pad. So we'll go back and we have some extra science. Few things to note about the interface. Also, we've completed the mission, the world's first milestone. We have performed, it's a milestone, not a mission. The missions are going to be completed at the end over here. Gather scientific data, we're going to complete that once we recover the mission, but we have performed an EVA test at home. So you have a few things over here. This on the lower side is the nav ball. It will be your main guide for orientation for like most activities. It shows you, basically it's like a small globe, and it shows you with like degrees the way you are oriented, the ways you want to burn, and more details. I'm not gonna go through them right now, but it's gonna be very important. On the left you have the throttle, which because we are playing with the Kerbonaut, we don't actually have throttle, but we could if we activated our jetpacks. Another important thing that Kerbonauts have, or Kerbals, however you want to call them. Pressing R, it activates their jetpack, and we can try and fly. Unfortunately, the gravity of Kerbin and air resistance is like way too strong for us to take off. But on other planets or on other moons, I should say, the jetpack is gonna be something that you'll definitely use a lot, very valuable. On the left side, that was that. On the right side, you have the G-force meter. That is the amount of acceleration the Kerbal or the ship is suffering. Right now, it's at one, almost one. It's modeled similar to the Earth's gravity, and it's like 9.8 meters over second squared. For those of you guys who know, now we're gonna climb in and get back in board, and we got the EVA report as well. There's also up on top. Before we go up on top, we have two more things. This is the reaction control system, which right now we don't have any. It basically activates some very small engines that use monopropellant, and it's gonna be useful later on when you have like big ships and you need to orient them ever so slightly. And the ASAS system, I think it's called the stability assistance system, or I'm not sure exactly what it stands for. What it does is basically whenever you try to accelerate in a certain direction, the ASS system offers a small force in the opposite direction in order to like balance out and not have your ship completely go out of control. So it's very good, and you must always make sure you activate it before you launch. It's activated by pressing T. The throttle, it's gonna be controlled with shift and control, and it can also be forced to like maximum with Z and completely cut with X. And there was one thing that I accidentally entered, and that is the internal view. That is how the Kerbals view the ship from like inside, from their own perspective, basically. And we basically have the same instruments as outside, and there are people who can like do entire missions just from inside over here. I think I can do like I can easily get into orbit from this view, and I can probably also land on the moon, but that is a little bit more difficult. I do have to use the map for those operations, which you can enter by pressing M. That is the map view. It shows you around on a larger scale. Another thing, this is the what's it called, the speedometer. It shows you the speed. Right now it shows us the speed relative to the surface, which is obviously 0, but if we try to move around, we can see how it changes. This is like the yaw that we're controlling, and it's a pretty strong ship. It can actually move itself on the ground. You also have roll with Q and E, and pitch with W and S. Trying to like put it back on its track. Whoop, and it's back. But if you click on it, you can also change to like orbital speed and even target speed. We don't have a target right now, but that will also be important. And it's important to keep in mind like what your current speed is relative to what you want. For example, when you're in orbit, you obviously want to know the orbit speed. When you're close to the surface, you want to know the surface speed. So as you can see, even though we are stationary, we do have an orbit speed of 175 meters per second. That is basically the speed at which the planet rotates around its axis. Basically, it's your speed relatively to the center of the Earth or Kerbin. Over to the top over here, the last few things before we recover the vessel and end this mission, we have the altilometer. I think that's what it's called. It shows us the altitude relative to the sea level. Very important to keep that in mind. So you see that even though we are on the ground, it has 67 meters. The sea level is a little bit below us. We have the atmosphere meter, which shows us how thick the atmosphere is where we currently are. And the lower it gets, then the less air resistant there will be until we get into space when there's no atmosphere, obviously. And then there's also this other like speedometer, or whatever you want to call it, that shows us the vertical speed. Now this is very important because the surface speed shows you a combination between the lateral speed and the vertical speed. They combine the vectors and they show you like the combined speed that you're going to, but that is not always what you want to see, and therefore sometimes you have to do calculations between the surface speed and the vertical speed to find out like how fast you're moving like laterally. Yeah, and you also have the lights that you can turn on the gears, we don't have any, and the brakes, which we also don't have any. Also, another important thing, I did say that this is the altimeter to the sea level. There is a radar altimeter. Sorry if I'm not calling it correctly. You can altitude, radar altitude, there you go. So this one actually shows you the altitude towards the surface. So when you want to land somewhere, this is the one that you want to look at, because it shows you exactly how close you are to the surface. Now obviously this is more limited, it only goes towards like 3,000 meters, but you know, you don't need it to go too further when you're landing. So we're gonna recover vessel, and already from a mission in which we didn't even launch, we gained like 60 science and experience for Jebediah and a lot of funds, because we have completed 2 missions. I mean, we've completed 1 mission, and we have completed milestones for recovering the crew and performing experiments. So even though we haven't done like basically nothing, we can already get engineering 101 and basic rocketry. We're not going to use these parts right away, but it's good to have them. And now one more thing we're going to do, and go ahead and do a very basic launch, just to get you guys more familiar with how things work while we are flying. You can hold shift to like zoom in and zoom out. If you just use the middle mouse button, it will go up and down. Right mouse button to move around. You can see there are a lot of buttons, and we're gonna go through them as we move on. But for now, we're gonna go with a very basic solid fuel booster. The flea booster is the smallest that we have. The solid fuel booster compared to the to the liquid fuel booster is different from the fact that it has no throttle control, and it basically, you start it, it will burn absolutely everything it has at its full throttle, which you can change from before launching. You can limit the thrust over here from the thrust limiter if you feel like you don't need all the thrust, which we have right over here. And yeah, the thing is that you cannot control it. Once you start it, it will not stop until it runs out of fuel, unlike the liquid fuel engines. They're very good when you want to take off, because they have much more thrust, but they are not so good when you want to you know, when you need more maneuverability basically, or when you need to land, for example. They're just terrible then. So as you can see, we already have more scientific options. We're gonna equip them right away so we can get them. The really like the slightly more annoying part about Kerbal Space Program and the way you gather science from it is that the thing is, as you progress, you know, as you unlock more things, you also unlock more scientific equipment, and that you'll have to use again in the biomes that you have previously explored. So you'll have to like re-explore biomes like several times in order to get all the science from them. Very important thing that we are currently missing, and the engineer's report is telling us, and that is the parachute is missing. You must never forget that if you ever want to bring your Kerbals safely back home. It's from utility, the parachute. Now there is another problem that some people, especially beginners, don't really realize, and that it's telling you over here on the engineer's report, and that is the parachute is on first stage. The way you control stages in Kerbal Space Program is very simple. You just press the space bar, and when you press the space bar, the next stage from the bottom all the way to up will activate. Right now what will happen, we have both these things on the same stage, so when we press spacebar, both the solid rocket booster and the parachute will activate at the same time, and we don't want that. That's a recipe for disaster. So I just created a new stage over here and moved the solid rocket booster over here. So now when we press spacebar, it will activate the solid rocket booster. It will go however much solid fuel it has, and then when it runs out, we can activate the parachute safely afterwards. Good, very good. Alright, all that being said and done, I mean, you can equip the communications already, but it's not really necessary, because as I said, I will want to keep the data, but we can equip them just in case. And we can even put some basic things over here. You have the cycle symmetry count, so For those of you guys who like, it's not for those of you guys. It's very difficult to like put things, manually and put like one here and then try and guesstimate where the other one should go. So in order to not have these problems, you just, go cycle symmetry and it will put two of them, or you can put three of them, or four of them, or five of them. I mean six, and all the way to eight. Alright, that being said, we're gonna have this first launch and we're gonna end this episode over here. We're gonna call this one first launch ship. I'm very bad at names, so hope you guys don't mind. Hope you guys cut me some slack, at least on the namings and on landing on other planets. That is the things that I don't know to do. And like what's it called, like encountering in space. I forgot what is the name, the rendezvous that you can do in space. So as before, SS important to activate. Let me see if I observe the mystery goo. Does it count as being, it's still on the launch pad. Let's see if I go EVA report. Does it count as, no, it's still on the launch pad. Sometimes if you get like, if your ship is high enough, it will count as being flying over the launch pad, because it's like high up in the sky. Anyway, reactivate the SS because it deactivates when you get the Kerbonaut out. The SS is dependent on having a pilot on board because we don't have any advanced computers as of yet. And in 3, 2, 1, we're gonna activate the engines. The throttle does not matter at all because it's a solid rocket booster. So 3, 2, 1, launch! And up we go with the massive speed that the solid rocket booster is pulling out. It might be a little bit too fast for us. Hopefully we won't burn out. And we are done for. And that already completed our contract, launching our first vessel, as well as a whole lot of milestones, breaking the speed record, launching our first vessel, breaking multiple speed records and altitude records. And now it's very important to do the crew reports while we can, while we are in the air. Observe mystery goo, so you can like observe them twice and it will give you like it will still give you science. By the third one it will start to like give you very diminished scientific data. Now we could also pull our guy out and do an EVA report, but yeah, it doesn't really allow us to do that. We need to upgrade the astronaut complex, and it's not safe because of the air resistance. You might end up in a pretty bad state in which the Kerbal just flies off, and unfortunately Kerbals don't have parachutes, as you might know. Now we're falling back down very fast, even like went downwards, but that is okay. We are accelerating, but we do have the parachute, which we are going to activate. And once we hit 1,000 meters, it is going to deploy, forcing us at a huge amount of acceleration. The G-force, this is like very dangerous. That's why in real life they use like drogue chutes, which like deploy first and activate at a higher altitude, so they reduce the speed. Like we got all the way to like 10 G-force. That's a huge amount of acceleration that can easily black you out if you're not careful. But now at just 7 meters per second, even less, we're gonna fall down safely and without any problems, and we're gonna recover the vessel. It's a recommendation that when the parachutes activate and when you are close to hitting the ground, that you don't time accelerate. The game, although it's finished and it is way less buggier than before, can still do some rough stuff when you're not careful. Let's just put it that way. So let's just recover. We have returned to the surface, another important milestone, so we can recover the vessel, and we have a huge amount of science and a lot of reputation getting from all this and a lot of money as well from all these amazing new feats. And yeah, the missions all already starting to plow in. Now obviously what I wanted to say is that these missions, the observational surveys and focused temperature surveys, are very hard to do because you have to go on a specific place on the planet, and they become more doable once you have an actual plane, but with the rocket it's much harder to control. Instead, you can do things like this: radial decoupler while landing on Kerbin. This is like extremely easy to do. You just pretty much have to like grab a radial decoupler and press put it on the launch pad and press space, and you have it. And also escape the atmosphere will be our next mission to be done. But until we do that, hope you guys enjoyed watching. Hope you guys learn a little bit more from you know, my ways of doing things. If you have any more questions, then don't hesitate to leave them down below. And yeah, we'll be back with some more Kerbal Space Program. We're gonna do some basic missions in which we do some launches around here, one into the grasslands, one into the ocean, just to grab a little bit more experience and grab some more data. So there you go. These are the places where you need to like do the temperature surveys or observational surveys. They do seem pretty close, but let me tell you, with a rocket it's much harder to hit those places. But yeah, by the end of the second episode, I will be wanting to do a mission to the North Pole, which is a very simple, very basic mission that you can do and can also achieve suborbital flight and escape the atmosphere. And that will have to do it. As I said, hope you guys enjoyed watching. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe to see more. And yeah, I will continue this series for as long as it's necessary. I really hope, if possible, I know he's a very busy guy, but if he has the time to watch this series and finally learn what the hell he's supposed to do, I'd really love if Northernlion would give an eye out to this one. You know, he's been reading some tutorials and stuff, but he's having a very hard time understanding them. And I will go into more in-depth explanations as I go into more proper launches. But anyway, until then, see you next time. Bye.